Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. Today's Sunday. I actually just finished recording this week's episode of Hobby Think Tank over on Bench Clear Media with John. I think it was really good. It's all about the expectation of perfection in the hobby. So that should be out Thursday, I think around 5 p.m. So please subscribe to Bench Clear Media. Watch that episode. It'll actually be my last episode in a few weeks because next week I travel out to Palm Springs in California a week from today, and won't be available at all. I'm hoping to get out to a card shop there in the desert. I think there is one. I Googled it, so I'm hoping I can just grab an Uber and go to the card shop somewhere near the hotel. We'll see. Today, I wanted to talk about 1961 Topps dice game. These are the test cards, and you may have seen the story on Sports Collectors Daily. Really interesting story, and I think the cards are getting a lot of publicity. We'll talk about the cards, but the story for me is even more interesting of how these cards came about and the sale of them recently. So, first of all, the 1961 Topps dice game test cards were produced by Topps. It's an 18-card set. They were black and white press photos that were released by the team. They're actually an expert, a baseball card historian, thinks that the cards were actually released in 1963. I couldn't figure out why they say 1961. They weren't actually released. I should say that they were produced in 1963. But the photos, so Stan Musial, his pose was used on the 1962 Topps card. The Willie Mays was used in the smaller portion of the horizontal 1960 Topps Mays card. Also in his 1969 Decal Edge, same card, 9 years apart, same photo, 9 years apart, interestingly. The card backs were inspired by baseball board games of that era, like APBA and Stratomatic. You had the roll of the dice. There were 4 different pitch types, and then a bunch of different possibilities, depending on the roll you got on your dice of the result of that pitch. So as I said, there's no Topps logo on them. They were not ready to market. It's believed that Topps actually sent marketing people or testers out to playgrounds in America to have boys test them, or kids test them out on playgrounds. And that's probably how some got released. Or they walked out of the manufacturing facility on their own. So in terms of this recent sale, a man in New Jersey traveled to South Carolina to clean out his mother's home, and he found a handful of them in a pencil case in a drawer. And they were his brother's when his brother was a kid, and he didn't know what they were, had no idea. He put them on eBay for $4.99 per card and was immediately bombarded with emails from people saying, "Do you know what you have?" I love this. If you see a card worth thousands, many thousands of dollars on eBay going for $4.99 and you think it's legit, do you buy it? Or do you email the person and say, "Hey, that card is worth way, way more"? I think most people are going to just buy it and then grade it and sell it. A lot of people emailed him and said, "Whoa, hold on, you can't sell these for $5 each. They're worth tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars." And he immediately pulled the cards off of eBay. I know I'm going to get comments from people saying, "They're so stupid of these people." But you have to respect the honesty. You know what? I'm going to get comments from people saying you don't have to respect the honesty because it's stupid of them and you should take as much money as you want. Sure, fine. But the fact is, this guy had cards worth many, many thousands of dollars, trying to sell them for $5 each, pulled them off, did some research. He took private bids from people, negotiated for months. He said for several months he was negotiating with people, finally came to an agreement with a man named Fred McKee, and we'll talk a little bit more about Fred McKee in a moment too. Fred McKee paid 6 figures. It's not released how much he actually paid for them, but in the 6 figures for them, and they brokered the sale where they put the money in escrow until the cards were graded by PSA and authenticated. Obviously, Fred McKee isn't going to just say, okay, here's $150,000, let's say, Give me those ungraded cards. He wants the cards guaranteed by PSA. Smart business. So the seller ends up getting a lot more than he thought they were worth, and Fred McKee ends up getting these awesome, incredibly rare cards. So how rare? There are only 3 mantles graded by PSA, and I think actually 3 by PSA or SGC. The 1952, just to give you a little perspective, the 1952 Topps mantle has over 1,800 graded by PSA. Now, it's more iconic, of course. It was believed at the time to be his first card. A lot of people think it's his rookie card. It's his first Topps card. But this 1961 Topps Dice Game test card is significantly more rare. So, a PSA 1 mantle, 61 Topps Dice Game, sold in 2018 by Robert Edwards Auctions for $144,000. That's 4 years ago. Another PSA 1 mantle sold in 2021 for $372,000. So look at the value increase. That same exact card, PSA 1, sold in 2022, less than a year later, for $396,000. So in 4 years, the value of the card went up by 2.5. Went from $144,000 to almost $400,000. Pretty impressive. And this mantle came back at 2.5. So could this mantle go for $1 million? Certainly over half $500,000, right? If the 1 is worth $400,000, or was last year at some point, the 2.5 should be worth over $500,000. Of course, it depends on the market. It depends on a lot of different factors. But I'll be interested to see how much McKee is able to sell these for. But he said that he's hanging on to them for now and won't be selling them right away. PSA has only graded 23 from this set. SGC has graded 10. The highest are 7. PSA 7s are the highest. There are 4 of those. None of them mantle. So as I promised, Fred McKee has a little history in the hobby. He once owned the T206 Wagner, Honus Wagner, that sold for $6.6 million in 2021. Now, he didn't sell it for $6.6 million. He sold it for a little bit less than that. In 1973, he bought it for $1,100. So between 1973 and 2021, over the course of that almost 50 years, it appreciated from $1,100 to $6.6 million. But he sold it 3 years later, in 1976, to Barry Halper for $2,500. He says he has no regrets. He says he still feels like the card is his because he can still see the crease on the back. But he sold it for $2,500 45 years ago, and now it's worth many, many millions. Splendid Sports actually did a video on this topic of this set 6 months ago. I was researching this, and Adam of Splendid Sports, great channel, had already done a video on this topic, so I'm far from original, but this story got me. I love this set, but I especially love the story of how the guy put them on eBay at $5 each. If you're new here, or if you just haven't subscribed because you're not sure, please click that like button. Click the subscribe button too. I put out daily, almost, sports card content, or almost daily sports card content, not almost sports card content. So yeah, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great week. If you know of any sports card shops in Palm Springs or nearby within a short drive, let me know in comments. I appreciate it. Have a great week.